All right, what's up, everybody? Well, it looks like this fight has creeped up on us. Anthony Joshua versus Andrew Ruiz 2, the rematch next Saturday. So much to unpack here, man. I got so much to say here. Um, I'm really excited about the fight, and I'm sure most of you guys are excited about the fight as well. This, to me, is the biggest fight of the year, in my opinion. This rematch between Andrew Ruiz and Anthony Joshua. Uh, let's talk about this now because this fight's going to be in Saudi Arabia, and I know there's a lot of concern from a lot of boxing fans about this fight being in Saudi Arabia. What's up, guys? But Eddie Hearn has said that there's going to be neutral officials, neutral judges, neutral referee. Now, the big question here is, was this just a bad night for Joshua this past June? Did he take Andrew Ruiz lightly? Or was this just a bad style matchup for Joshua? Has Joshua been on the slide ever since the Klitschko fight? Has he been getting easier and easier to hit? Have the holes in his game been exposed fight after fight after fight? Because Andrew Ruiz did say that he felt that he saw holes in Joshua's game. He did say that he felt that Joshua was robotic, that he wasn't as good a boxer as himself, wasn't as skilled as himself. He felt pretty confident going into the first fight, as he feels very confident going into the second fight. Joshua, on the other hand, just doesn't seem confident, saying things in interviews like, I don't know if I'm good enough. I question myself whether I'm good enough. Um, he was asked if he was to lose this rematch, would it be detrimental to his career? Would it be something that would put a monkey wrench in his career? Would it be, put his career in a tailspin, so to speak? And he basically said, no. If I lose this fight, I'll continue to fight on. I'll continue to try to rebuild and try to regain the championship of the world. So there doesn't seem like there's any sense of urgency in Anthony Joshua in regards to this fight. There really doesn't. Whereas Andrew Ruiz basically was fighting for his life in the first fight. He was fighting to put food on the table for his family. And he's just as hungry in the rematch as well. So he's got something to fight for. He's fighting for his family. Joshua really doesn't have to fight for anything. I mean, he's already was the champ, already had 3 of the belts, made a ton of money. So there just doesn't seem to be that fire in Joshua's belly. And what can Joshua do differently in this rematch? Because Joshua is who he is. He's a straight up, stand up, tall type heavyweight. He's more of a mid range guy. I don't think he has a great jab. I think sometimes he, for the most part, throws that jab out there in a kind of a lazy fashion. Doesn't always really commit to it. Doesn't snap it out there. But for the most part, he likes to kind of slide into the mid range and crank up those short right hands and those short left hooks and those uppercuts on the inside. Those 45-degree uppercuts in the mid range. And Andrew Ruiz got right in his chest and smothered him for a great part of that fight. And he was really up in his chest and threw that blind left hook that hit him on the temple there that he didn't see coming. So I think if you take that mid range away from Anthony Joshua, I think that's half the battle. It's easier said than done, but guys have started to kind of pick up on Anthony Joshua a little bit and figure out his style. I thought Povetkin was winning that fight before Joshua landed that right hand left hook combination that knocked out Povetkin, which ironically enough was the same combination that Joshua landed on Andrew Ruiz, but Andrew Ruiz was able to get up from it and recover. And then as soon as he got up from it, Joshua landed another vicious right hand on Ruiz, but Ruiz took it. So Ruiz definitely has a punch resistance. But here, let's look at a couple things now. Let's look at Joshua's mindset going into this rematch. Doesn't seem like he has that fire in his belly. It doesn't seem like he has that passion like Andrew Ruiz has. And I was concerned about Andrew Ruiz having that Buster Douglas syndrome. But he looks to be in great shape. He's coming in a little bit leaner, about 6 or 7 pounds leaner, it seems. And Joshua looks about 10 or 12 pounds lighter than he did in the first fight, which is a big, big mistake, in my opinion, because Joshua was a guy who was already lean. Thank you, Alexander Wilson. Alexander Wilson says the only way AJ is winning if he Klitschko the fight and keeps it at a distance. Also, I think this is the beginning of boxing's big fight in Saudi Arabia. Okay, good point there. So yeah, so he's losing weight, okay? And when you're losing weight off of a frame that's heavily muscled, and it's already lean, that doesn't have much body fat to begin with, then obviously you're losing muscle mass. And Joshua is a fast twitch, explosive guy. So he's a fast twitch, muscle fiber, explosive guy. So if you take those fast twitch muscle fibers away from him, if you shrink those muscles, then you're losing a lot of that power and explosiveness. And people think, oh, well, you know, Joshua fades late, so maybe it's because he's too big and too bulky. Okay, well, here's another thing. Here's the flip side of that. Well, again, if you lose too much weight and you lose a lot of muscle mass basically utilizes oxygen better than fat does, right? I mean, fat you can oxidize for energy, but he doesn't have a lot of fat in his body to begin with. So Andrew Reese is still going to have some fat to him, you know, with all due respect. So he's not going to lose too much energy. Whereas Joshua, where's he going to get the energy from? Because muscles tend to use a lot of oxygen, but also they enable the body to use a lot of blood flow too. So you got to people who are fast twitch muscle fiber guys tend to have a lot of red, you know, a good amount of red blood cells in their body to fuel those muscles. So those muscles are pumping. They got a lot of nitric oxide going into those muscles. So you take those muscles and you shrink them. That's less nitric oxide. That's less blood going to the muscles. That's less, you know, viscosity that the blood has, and it's less oxygen that the body's going to have to utilize. So he's going to lose some energy by losing muscle mass, because a muscular body, there's the misconception that just because you have muscles that you're slow, you're bulky, and you fade late. But a muscular body can utilize oxygen and has better blood flow than an unconditioned, less muscular body. So by him losing muscle mass, which is what I think he's going to do, it's going to be a detriment to him. Just like Roy Jones, when he went up to heavyweight and lost all that weight. This is the same thing that Joshua's doing. He doesn't have to make weight. So I think he believes that if he's lighter, that he's going to be able to box better. He's going to be able to move better. He's going to have better stamina. But that's not his game. He can't all of a sudden change things up at this stage of the game and think he's going to become a slick boxer, because that's not his game. He is not a slick boxer. This guy's an explosive, power punching, power heavyweight. So he thinks he's going to lose weight, Ray Leonard or Pernell Whitaker. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So his punch resistance is going to be even worse in this fight. So ever since the Klitschko fight, I believe there has been a steady decline. I think he's been taking a lot of shots, particularly right hands. Particularly right hands. You know, and I think that his lack of defense was exposed in a lot of his fights, and it was really exposed in the Ruiz fight. So how is Joshua going to win this fight? Because it seems like the game plan is to fight cautiously, fight by boxing from the outside, but that's not really his game. He's a mid-range power guy that likes to throw those mid-range hooks, short right hands, and uppercuts. So if you take that out of the arsenal and you try to make him fight like Klitschko is fighting, Scant Rants, thank you so much. Alexander Wilson, I erased your super chat by accident. Okay. Thank you, Scant Rants. I appreciate that. So if he's going to try to fight this fight like Klitschko, if he thinks he's going to turn into Vladimir Klitschko for this fight, all of a sudden turn into Vladimir Klitschko, number one, I don't think he's going to be successful at it. And number two, he can get, he can allow Ruiz to outwork him if he's going to sit there and 1-2 from the outside and grab every time Ruiz gets close. Ruiz is small enough to be able to wiggle out of the clinches. So, here's the thing. I talk about, and I said this before, and forgive me for being redundant and repeating myself, because I've said these things on the Ringside Reporter podcast, but here's the thing. Joshua, I'm sure, doesn't like to lose. But I don't think he hates to lose. And I think if you're going to be a special fighter, and again, make no mistake about it, okay? There's about 700, 800 registered heavyweights in the world today in boxing. And Joshua was the number one heavyweight before he lost to Ruiz, arguably, right? So you can still say he's in the top 4 or 5. So to be in the top 4 or 5, to do what Joshua has done, you have to have an immense skill. You have to be, an elite physical specimen athlete. You just can't wake up and just do the things Joshua did and not be special. So he's in the elite class in terms of human beings, okay? But when you're in that elite class, you get compared to other people that are in your class as well, your contemporaries, which is Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, and now Andrew Ruiz, and the list goes on and on. But for the most part, it's those guys, right? So when you look at Joshua and then you look at these other guys, and you say to yourself, Joshua, I think, genetically was born to be a fighter. Okay? Instinctively, he's a fighter. But I don't think it's in his soul. I don't think it's down deep in his belly. I don't think he's got that fire, that passion. I think he just does it because he can, not because he loves it. I don't think he loves boxing. I don't think he's just passionate about boxing. I don't think he hates to lose. So in an instance where a guy goes down, where Joshua was knocked down, and again, I don't think Joshua quit in that fight. I think that his body shut down on him. His nervous system shut down on him, and he lost control of his faculties. And he was fighting off of instinct. He turned his back because he was trying to regroup and balance himself. I don't think he quit in the fight. I don't question his heart, but I do question his desire, his passion, does he love boxing with his soul, with every fiber of his being? Because those are the special guys. The guys where when instinct shuts down on them, that fire inside them, that passion inside them, deep down in their soul, they muster up that type of energy like Tyson Fury did, because his body was shut down, okay? But the passion inside him willed him to get up. Now, if you don't have that passion, that desire, that will inside you, which I don't believe Joshua has at this point, as gifted as he is, I think if you're going in there against somebody that does have that, like Andrew Ruiz has that, Deontay Wilder has that, Tyson Fury has that, where they hate losing, okay? If they lose, it is a blow to them. It is detrimental to them. They're not going to just be smiles and happy after the fight if they lose. When you're at this level, I hate the saying that boxing is 80 or 90% mental and 20 or 10% physical. I disagree with that. But when you're at this level and everybody is at that elite physical skill set type level, that talent level, then you start looking at the little things. And that's where the mental kicks in. You could have a guy who's the strongest guy mentally in the world going up against a guy who is just 10 times more skilled than him, but maybe he doesn't want it as much as the other guy. Rocky only happens in the movies, guys. Okay? You can say what you want about Ruiz. I didn't think he was going to win that first fight either. But Ruiz definitely was the more skilled fighter. But people thought that Joshua's size, strength, and just overall physicality would be enough to overcome Ruiz's skills. But now we know that's not enough. So now he has to dig down deep and look for something else. What else is there for Joshua? He basically won by steamrolling guys. He won all of his fights except for the Joseph Parker fight by knockout. Okay? And then in the Joseph Parker fight, I thought that fight was closer than people give it credit for. You can argue that that was a 7-5 fight for Joshua. You can argue that the referee did a horrible job in that fight. Parker landed a huge right hand, and the referee stopped the action and broke it up inexplicably for no reason. So, can Joshua be better than he was in the first fight? Because you sit there and say, well he's going to take Ruiz more seriously this time. But if he's going to fight out of character, if he's going to lose all this weight and think he's going to tiptoe around the ring and outbox Ruiz from the outside, a guy who's faster than him with his hands and arguably faster than him on his feet. He's a quicker guy. So you're going to lay back on the outside and you're going to let this faster guy have the opportunity to outwork you. I don't see that happening, guys. I just don't see that happening. So Joshua's trying to reinvent himself from top to bottom, physically, mentally, and spiritually. All Ruiz is doing is adding to his game. Ruiz losing 6 or 7 pounds, that's great. Joshua losing 10, 12 pounds on a ripped, lean, already sculpted physique, that's a bad move, guys. His face looks sunken in. He don't look right, guys. He don't look right. He still looks kind of out of it to me. He looks kind of conflicted. He looks torn. Okay? There looks like something's missing. And I think it's that fire, that passion. Joshua is like a minus 220 in this fight, and Andy Ruiz is like a plus 185. The odds are closing. The odds are closing. I think a lot of people are starting to see what I see. That maybe Joshua just doesn't want it anymore. But Andy Ruiz, he's still hungry. He still has kids to feed. He had one big payday. That ain't going to be enough to live off of for the rest of his life. Joshua's made enough money, he could retire tomorrow. He could retire tomorrow. And we don't know the residual effect of that concussion that he suffered, physically or psychologically. Because he's going to have to go in that ring and look across that ring and say to himself, this is the guy that concussed me 6 months ago. This guy can hurt me. I hit this guy with the same punches that I hit everyone else with. And when I hit those other people with these punches, they fell. This guy got up and he fought harder. And then I hit him again when he got up with my Sunday punch. Most guys went down when I did that. But this guy fought harder. This guy who's heavier than me, who looks out of shape, who looks like he probably couldn't run a mile without needing an oxygen mask. This guy outworked me, out-hustled me, and fought harder. He faced the adversity and came back harder. When I couldn't, I was detached from my senses because this guy concussed me. This guy concussed me. You don't think it's like when you touch that hot stove and you get burned one time. Now, every time you see that stove, even when you know the knobs are off, you still get a little bit nervous, don't you, when you walk past that stove, when you already got that third-degree burn when you were a child. So now every time you see that stove, there's a little bit of anxiety, there's a little bit of concern. Or you got bit by a dog when you were a kid. So every time you walk by a dog, you have that feeling of anxiety, like, Jesus Christ, is this dog going to bite me too? Joshua's got to look across that ring and look at the man who not only knocked me out, but this guy detached me from my senses. This guy concussed me. Okay? And this guy is still hungry. This guy believes that he's good enough. While I'm sitting there asking myself, after winning a gold medal in the Olympics, after winning 3 titles and unifying the division, not fully unifying the division, but unifying 3 belts, I had a 90+ knockout ratio. I was on top of the world. And going into my first fight with Andrew Ruiz, all I'm thinking about is Deontay Wilder and how I'm going to try to outdo Deontay Wilder. And that put so much pressure on me. But meanwhile, I'm supposed to be the man. I'm the king of the division, supposedly. I'm calling the shots. But I'm worried about what the next man is doing across the street. Well, guess what? Deontay Wilder just fought. Same scenario 2 weeks before you. And he had an emphatic stoppage in his fight. Now, are you going to use the Deontay Wilder excuse in this fight now? Because now they're saying, oh, well, we're not thinking about Deontay Wilder this time. And that's like saying, okay, you break up with your girlfriend and you're out with your boys. You sit there telling your boys, I don't even miss her, man. I don't care about her. She don't matter to me. Yo, dude, I didn't ask you about her. Why are you talking about her, dude? I didn't ask you about her. So they're already bringing up Deontay Wilder's name, saying they're not thinking about him, just like that kid's not thinking about his girlfriend. But apparently he's thinking about his girlfriend because he's talking to his boy saying he's not thinking about her. So if you're saying you're not thinking about her and you got to tell your boy you're not thinking about her, guess what? You're fucking thinking about her. Deontay Wilder is living in Anthony Joshua's head rent-free, brothers and sisters. And that's a fucking fact. That's a fucking fact. You know that? That's a fucking fact. Maybe the burden of being heavyweight champion became too much for Anthony Joshua. Maybe looking at a guy like Deontay Wilder, who doesn't make as much money as him, who maybe isn't as big as a name as him, who doesn't sell out 90,000 seat stadiums like he does. But guess what? There's one thing that Deontay Wilder has that Anthony Joshua doesn't. Deontay Wilder lives, eats, sleeps, breathes boxing. He doesn't do it for only himself. He does it for his daughter. That's his passion. That's where Deontay Wilder gets his strength from. He doesn't ask himself, do I have to be good enough? He doesn't ask himself, do I have to be good enough? Am I good enough? You know why? Because in Deontay Wilder's mind, even he can't even ask himself that question. That's not even an option. He's got too much people depending on him. He fights for his daughter. He fights because he has to. And then in the midst of all that, he fights with passion. Deontay Wilder's a fucking warrior. He doesn't care about selling out 90,000 seat stadiums. He lives this 24/7. And when he was hurt in that Ruiz fight and his body shut down on him, it was the passion inside him that made him stay up and that did not allow him to go down. This is what Tyson Fury has. This is what Andy Ruiz has. This is what Deontay Wilder has. And this is the difference between them and Anthony Joshua. They don't have the luxury of saying, am I good enough? Because they have to be good enough in their minds. If Tyson Fury didn't have boxing, he would fucking, I hate to say this, he could possibly kill himself. Boxing is his fucking therapy. Andrew Ruiz needs boxing because boxing is his life. He wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He didn't get a gold medal in the Olympics. He wasn't pushed through the system like Anthony Joshua was. He had to scratch and claw for everything he had. For everything he had. Joshua, he's sitting on top of the world right now, even in defeat. Supposedly, he's getting $85 million for this rematch. This is a guy that got rewarded for losing. He got rewarded for losing. If Deontay Wilder ever lost to Luis Ortiz, you think he's gonna get more money? This guy is getting rewarded. He's making more money for losing than for winning. Think about it. Think about it. He's getting more money. So where's the fucking passion, the desire coming from? Oh, Anthony, if you lose this fight, will this be a serious blow to your career? Will this be the end for you? No. I can continue to fight on. It's not a big deal if I lose. I can continue to try to rebuild. Listen to that statement. It's not a big deal if I lose. It's not a big deal if I lose. Listen to that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. used to have nightmares of losing. He'd wake up in a cold sweat, and then he'd go out and run 4 or 5 miles. You know why? Because he knew the other guy wasn't doing it. And he knew that would help him not lose. That's how much Floyd Mayweather was afraid of losing. Let me tell you something, guys. Fear and anger, I repeat, fear and anger are great tools if you know how to use them. They're great tools if you know how to use them. But they can also be an albatross if you don't know how to use them. The fear of losing, okay, and the hatred of losing will make you fight harder. Think about it. You wake up every day, you're not afraid of anything, right? You have a girl that you love with all your heart. She means the world to you. So if you were to hurt her in any way and make her want to leave you, okay, that fear of losing her makes you fight harder to not lose her. Because if you didn't give a fuck and you weren't afraid to lose her, then you would probably say, fuck her, I'll treat her like shit. She leaves, I don't care. Same thing, you wake up every day and you don't have that fear or that concern of losing your job. That you know, something that makes you get up out of bed every day and try to do the best you can at your job. If you didn't give a fuck, if you knew you could do whatever you want at your job and not get fired, you think you're going to put forth your best effort? So if you're not afraid to lose and you accept losing so easily as AJ did in that last fight, how are you going to muster up enough passion, enough desire to do better in the rematch? How? How is that going to happen? If you're laughing and smiling and you're almost relieved, and your own promoter said AJ's relieved that he lost. The crown is too heavy. If the crown is too heavy and you can't wear it, and it's weighing you down, then maybe you're not fit or made to wear the crown. It's like fucking Count Dooku said to Anakin when they were fighting in Revenge of the Sith. He said, you have fear, you have hate, you have anger, but you don't use them. Those three things are a fighter's best weapons. Okay? Like Customato said, fear is like fire. It can ignite you. It can get your engine started and burning. And you can use that fire for fuel. That fear that creates that fire for fuel, for energy, for passion, for strength. But if that fear burns you down, destroys you from the inside out, paralyzes you, that fear and that fire breaks you down, then you have nothing left, guys. And I think that's where Joshua's in right now. Joshua's a guy that seems like he doesn't care if he wins or loses this rematch. I believe it. I believe it. And that's where I think the difference is. So you already have a guy in Andrew Ruiz who is already more skilled than Anthony Joshua. Okay? He's got more stamina than Anthony Joshua. So he seems to be more physically conditioned than Anthony Joshua. Now, can he bench as much as Anthony Joshua? Probably not. Can he win a bodybuilding contest like Anthony Joshua could? Probably not. Can he hit as hard as Anthony Joshua? That's open to debate. So if Anthony Joshua can't match him in those areas, then what's left is up here. And if you can't bring a strong mindset into this fight, then what else do you have? What else do you have? It's not a bodybuilding contest. You know, it's not a bodybuilding contest. It's not a contest to see who can sell 90,000 seat stadiums. Because when it's all said and done, if you don't win, none of that stuff matters. None of that stuff matters. And Andrew Ruiz has a full training camp this time around. He can only get better. Anthony Joshua has already been declining. There's already been some evidence of him sliding since that Klitschko fight. Defensively, he's gotten worse. He's in the corner asking his trainer, what is he going to do? What punch is he going to throw at me? What punches should I throw at him? He basically forgot what it took that got him there. He didn't even know what was going on in that fight. He was doubting himself even then in his corner. What do I have to do to stop this guy? What do I need to, what punches do I need to throw? Imagine asking your trainer, what punches do I need to throw? And then you're saying to yourself, what punches is he going to throw? How is your trainer supposed to know what punches he's going to throw? What's he got, a crystal ball? Guys, it's just, there was something wrong with Joshua in that fight. But it wasn't just that fight. This was a process. This was a regression. And that regression, there was a culmination in that Ruiz fight. That was where it all came to a head. It all started after the Klitschko fight. So now he's not going back to the UK now. Now he's going to Saudi Arabia. Okay? That's still not the UK. Ruiz has already fought New Zealand. He's already fought away several times. Doesn't matter to Ruiz if he has to fight away. He's still going to be the same regardless. Anthony Joshua is the guy who can't fight away from home. Anthony Joshua is the guy who's concerned about going back to the United States because he didn't think he could win there. This is a guy that's already showing his hand. He's already showing Ruiz that there's doubt, that there's concern. He's already showing him that. He's already showing his weaknesses. Okay? So that's a problem. That's a problem. So I think Anthony Joshua is going to go into this fight doing his best Vladimir Klitschko impression. And he's going to fail miserably at doing it. And I think Andrew Ruiz, who's going to be hungrier, who's going to be leaner, who's going to be meaner, who's going to be even more focused, who's going to be in even better shape, who's going to be more passionate, because he's got more to prove here. Because now people are saying that that was a fluke, that that was a mistake. That's fueling him even more. He's got more to fight for now. He's got a bigger chip on his shoulder going into this rematch now. Okay? So Ruiz is going to be even hungrier. Ruiz is going to be levels above what he was in the first fight, in my opinion. You're going to see the best Andrew Ruiz, an even better Andrew Ruiz than you saw in the first fight. But you're not going to see a better Anthony Joshua. You're going to see a guy who recreated himself, who was supposed to be this killer. Now he thinks in one fight he's going to turn himself into Floyd Mayweather, Pernell Whitaker, Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm going to move more. That's not your game, brother. That's not your game. So Anthony Joshua, I believe, is going to get knocked out again. My pick for this fight is Andrew Ruiz, KO, 9 rounds, because Joshua's going to probably be a little bit more defensive. He's going to be moving around a little bit more. But I think Joshua's going to get knocked out in 9 rounds. That's my pick. And I'll be doing a live broadcast for the fight next Saturday night, so make sure you guys join me. I'm really excited for this fight. Stop by the ref, probably. Stop by the ref, yeah. Joshua's got heart, man. I mean, he's got a fighter's spirit. You know, he's got instincts. You know, he's not going to lay down. He's not a weak person. He just has a character flaw where he lacks confidence in himself. I think he lacks confidence in himself. I think he just doubts himself. That doesn't mean like that he doesn't have the desire. Like that doesn't mean he's not a courageous man. I think he's a courageous man. I think he's got heart. I don't think he quit. But I think subconsciously, I think there's a lack of confidence there. There's doubt in his mind. I think there's doubts in his mind. So that's the pick, guys. Andrew Ruiz, 9th round stoppage. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Beeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. Make sure you check out the Ringside Reporter podcast this Sunday. We'll be doing a preview of this big fight coming up next Saturday. And also make sure you tune in next Saturday because I will be doing a live cast for this fight next Saturday. Until next time, Beeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. Peace. Have a great day, guys. Take care.